Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of Video Game Club, where every 2 weeks we play and discuss a game voted on by you, the people. It's kind of like electing a president, except popular vote matters. I'm Tyler, and I have with me today the man, the myth, the legendary voice of the internet, Austin. How you doing, Austin?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. And of course, it would not be a Video Game Club meeting without the amazing, the wonderful, the sensational Mox.
Hello.
Hey, Mox. How are you?
Great. How about you?
Good. So, before we get started, I wanted to go over what the options were for this episode. And they were Eversion, Until Dawn, and Soma. Of course, the winner was Soma. But if you are wanting a different game, please join us over in the Bombchu Discord to cast your vote. Now, besides Soma, what have you guys been playing? Starting with you, Mox.
It's just Stellaris all the time. There's nothing else but Stellaris. Also the kind of like spacey, survival of humanity kind of thing. It aligned well.
So nothing's changed since last week then? Or last couple weeks?
I have like 200 hours of Stellaris like in the past 2 weeks or something. Don't
Holy
judge
moly.
me.
Oh, dang. What about you, Austin?
I just finished up Injustice 2, which was a great story. And I've also been playing Pixel Junk Monsters with you.
Yeah, and that's been really fun.
Yeah.
Some fun tower defense. I have been playing some God of War and Death Stranding, and also Pixel Junk Monsters as well. But we're not here to talk about any of those games. We're here to talk about Soma. Soma is a first-person survival horror game. It was released September 22nd, 2015, initially on the PC and PS4, and it came later to Xbox One. So, what else was going on in 2015? I know you guys are curious.
Oh,
Windows 10 was released.
Really?
And, yeah.
Wow.
If Windows 10 is so good, then why isn't there a Windows 10 too?
We also sadly lost Iwata in 2015.
Aww.
Yeah. It bring you up just to break you down. We also first heard about the NX, which, as you guys know, would later be called the Switch.
Huh.
The new 3DS was released as well. So a lot of stuff going on in 2015. Here are some games, not all of them, but some big games that came out in 2015. Witcher 3, Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Ori and the Blind Forest, Rocket League, and Bloodborne. And we actually played a game that was released in 2015 already in Video Game Club, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember what it was, and I did not write it down because I'm terrible. But yeah, those were some games that were released in 2015. The game Soma was developed and published by Frictional Games, which is a studio based in Malmö, Sweden, which is in the south. It was developed on the HPL engine, named after, any guesses?
HP Lovecraft?
Correct. Yep. HP
Wow.
Lovecraft.
Did you look that up?
No, when he said HPL, I that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. And this was another iteration of that engine. It's the same engine that's used in Amnesia. But yeah. So
It was Axiom Verge that came out in 2015.
Axiom Verge. There we go. So recent. Like we've played that so recently, but yeah. Time stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about Frictional Games. So as I mentioned before, it's a small indie studio. They have, in 2019, they had 25 employees. They could have more now. It's based in Malmö, Sweden. I'm probably saying that completely incorrectly, but hopefully not. It was founded in 2007 by Thomas Grip and Jens Nilsson. Both had very little professional experience in the industry before starting this company. The founders worked on other projects together before finding Frictional Games. However, none of those projects would see a release, sadly. The first game that Frictional Games made was called Penumbra Overture. And, well, first of all, before I go on, have any of you played this game?
No.
I played a little bit of it.
Oh, really? What is it? A survival horror game?
I thought it was.
It fits very well with the rest of their library.
Okay. That's good to know. The game had it had one sequel and then it had like another game, like another version of it, but I don't think it was necessarily like a sequel. But yeah, that was the next game. And then in 2010, they self-published Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Have any of you guys played that game?
I didn't play it, but I watched my roommate play it. I sat like 10 feet from the PC and watched it through my closed fingers.
I played a few hours of it.
Okay. Is there any reason why you didn't finish it? Like any specific reason?
I hit the point where I first like actually got really scared, and at some point I just wasn't really like I liked the horror to it, but it took a really long time to get there, and the game surrounding that just kind of turned me off.
I've never played it, but it seems really spooky, and I'm not one for horror games like at all. So this was an interesting experience for me. After Amnesia came Soma, and Soma was actually much more successful than Amnesia.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, and I'll go into a bit of details in that later. In 2016, they announced that they started production on 2 new games due to the success of Soma. One of those titles is Amnesia Rebirth, which is being released on October 20th of this year.
Huh.
Yeah. I will not be playing that game probably because I'm a big baby. But if you like Soma and you liked Amnesia, it seems like another, game in that genre to check out. Okay, so back to Soma. So development began in 2010, and they started by advancing their in-house engine, which is the HPL engine that we talked about earlier. The setting was kind of selected on a whim, which is interesting because it plays a major part in the game. So, it's not a spoiler or anything, but the game takes place in the Atlantic Ocean. And they kind of just decided that, like, last minute. They were just like, oh, yeah, let's put it at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. And it's kind of nuts because, like, it's such a huge part of the game, I feel.
Yeah, I agree.
They must have been inspired by BioShock.
Yeah, yep, I'm getting there too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. The story was designed to rely on the player rather than audio logs, which I thought was great. So essentially, you should be able to understand what's going on in the story if you don't read anything, if you just like experience the game.
Yeah, I noticed that when I would look at certain things, my character would kind of start talking about what he was seeing. Like, I would be reading it a little bit, but I noticed if I wasn't reading, then he would kind of comment on what was going on. And some of it was optional, but the optional stuff wasn't needed to understand what the broad strokes of the story.
Yeah. Did you notice that too, Mox?
Yeah, I guess, well, having done the, having watched, I guess, Amnesia, I was expecting it to be very similar to that. And since I had watched a playthrough of it, right, like back when it first came out, that's what I remembered was it wasn't a lot of like text and stuff. But then actually going through it, there was a lot, but you could learn what you needed to by not reading it. That's good.
Yeah. The game's atmosphere was inspired by Philip K. Dick, China Mayville, probably saying that wrong, and Greg Egan. To my knowledge, these are all writers of novels. And we kind of, I believe, last episode, we kind of talked about Philip K. Dick a bit, or at least after the stream.
Yeah.
Right, Mox? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Soma was received quite well, 8s and 9s from popular outlets. Critics described it as a good like video game mixtape because it had things from BioShock, Gone Home, and of course Amnesia, which people already liked from fictional games.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Everything is a mixtape then, because everything's inspired by everything else. Nothing is new under the sun. That's
I took it straight from the critic's mouth right there.
Well, that
I believe
sucked.
Oh, it was criticized for having a slow start, but was still received quite well. Most of the criticism, however, was focused around the enemies and the cat and mouse game played with them, which I think we will probably discuss later when we give our points on it. So just to kind of show you like how well Soma did in comparison to Amnesia. After 10 days of being released, Soma sold 92,000 copies, which exceeded Amnesia by 72,000 copies in that same time frame. Also, 1 year after release, the game sold 450,000 copies, and then, of course, continues to sell today. They made a couple updates whenever they were getting close to breaking even on the game, and I think that was at around the 200,000 copies mark. So
certainly they must have advertised better than for Amnesia, and I'm sure they didn't advertise at all for Penumbra as their first game.
Yeah, they also they blame. I read a little bit into this. They blame Amnesia not being as successful on their publisher. So this game was self-published by them versus the other game, which was not. And according to Wikipedia, they blamed their publisher for.
Who was their publisher?
I believe it was Paradox Interactive.
What? Why would that be bad?
Well,
I guess it's defensive because of Stellaris.
So Paradox is really good at strategy games, right? They're famous for that, but Amnesia is not a strategy game, so that could be one reason.
And Amnesia was not on console, right? It was only on PC.
At least not initially. I didn't dive deep into Amnesia. I'm not sure.
Okay,
but something to look at for sure. All right, I'm gonna throw up the old spoilers tag. If you have not played Soma and you do plan on playing it, I will tell you it's not very long. And even if you don't like horror games, before I put the spoiler tag on, even if you don't like horror games, I would still recommend playing it just because it's not very short. And I didn't think, to me, who's a big baby, I didn't think it was not playable for just being a horror game.
And as opposed to some of the games that we've done, spoilers are we're gonna go pretty deep into spoilers on this one, and that's really the core of the game.
Yes, it is. So if you do plan on playing this game and you're someone who does not want it to be spoiled for you, I would leave the stream right now, or in the video version, fast forward until you're past the spoiler section. So I'm going to turn that on now. Okay, so now we're in spoiler territory where we can dive a little deep into this crazy story. So I'm gonna go through the story. Please stop me where I'm missing something, because I have not played this for a week and a half, which doesn't seem like that long, but for my brain it was long, apparently. So
speaking of brains.
yeah. The game starts you out. You're kind of listening, I believe, to a car crash, and you wake up in your apartment. You play, the protagonist is Simon Jarrett, who survives the crash. However, your partner, or the person I don't think it's clear if I think they were your partner at some point, but they did not survive the crash. You also suffer from brain damage and cranial bleeding, which is never good when you're bleeding from the skull.
It's where the blood's supposed to be. I forgot what that's from.
You're told in your apartment that you need to take your medicine to prepare for an appointment that you have. You go to the appointment and you participate in an experiment with David Munchie, and he's not a doctor. And as
you find out when you're sitting down for your scan,
he's like, "Well, it must be after this."
This is for his thesis project. He needs this data to do his thesis, and he's collecting data. He's not operating on you.
True.
I read there's too much criticism there. I take offense.
Fair enough. During the experiment, you black out and you wake up in an underwater research facility called Pathos 2 in 2104.
The year.
Pathos?
The year 2104. I mean, that could be 9:04 p.m. for
Sorry.
Europeans.
Yes, the year 2104. Is it Pathos, Mox?
Yes, that's how he says. That's how everybody says it, at least. The
research facility has clearly seen better days, but it's pretty clear that at one point this was a sophisticated research facility, just based on everything that you're seeing. You find out that it was originally there for mining, but there has been a focus shift to a cannon called the Omega cannon, I think.
Yeah, make space gun.
Yeah, and it is basically something that launches stuff into space, such as satellites and things. But it's in the ocean, which is just like, yeah, like it just.
Well, I agree with you and your weird noises because, like, granted, he gets his brain scanned in 2015, and it seems like there's nothing about pathos at that time. And then somehow, in less than 100 years, they create this incredibly advanced, deep, space. I'm sorry, like research station.
Yeah.
So far under the water, like that it's like.
Well, if it was
pressure.
being built for mining, it might have been started but before he was going in for that scan, right?
Yeah.
Like even right now, like Microsoft is doing like underwater server farms and stuff like that.
True. My thing is, I'm making weird noises because of the cannon. The way that I understand it, it has to shoot through water, and that does not seem like. Why would you want more resistance?
It doesn't shoot through water. The big tube goes through the ocean, but it ends up on the surface, or rather, at the top of the water.
Shoots out. Okay.
So it's just a really long gun.
Yeah,
like super long, and it
Which
uses
really long.
And it uses electromagnets, right? Which is the same thing that like roller coasters use to go from like 0 to
So it's like a rail gun.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that also what the bullet train uses?
Yes. Yep. Good old magnets. How do they work? Okay. So, your character Simon, you meet Catherine, which you find out is a non-human AI.
Nuh-uh, she's a human. Okay. Now we're mincing words.
Okay, you find out. Initially you believe that she is a human like yourself.
At Lambda Station.
Yes. And you find out that she is not in a human body, but she is...
Much like yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's like, you're not a human either. And you're like, wait, what?
Well, okay. I believe
You kind of deduce it by then.
Yeah. You get to, at some point, you get to see like your arms.
But isn't he technically like in part of a human body?
It's not his human body.
It's a dead person inside of a suit.
All fused together with like this bioelectronic gel.
Structure gel,
That just like is gooey and just goes everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back, when you meet Catherine, she reveals to you that a comet has totally devastated Earth. And Earth is basically no longer, which...
Well, the surface anyway.
Yeah, and, should we believe her?
Yes, you see pictures later.
Oh, you do? Okay. Catherine tells Simon that, so you go where she is. On the way to where she is, you meet robots who believe they are humans.
I believe that specific idea was like a big advertising campaign for Soma. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. And I know that there was some like short films, I believe, made as well. Yeah. I did not watch
it. It was a little weird to me that there were... So it's like you and Catherine are fully aware and you know what you are, but there are these other people who are in robots and they can't, like when you talk to them like, hey, like, can I get you a mechanic? They're like, what are you, joking? Like, get me a doctor, you idiot. They have no idea that they're in a robot body. So I thought that was odd.
It was definitely peculiar, for sure. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Simon gets it because of the modified gel that you learn about later.
Right, but I'm not sure what Catherine's is...
she's the one that, like, did all of this stuff, like, putting people into electronics. And then, like, the WoW, based on her designs, kind of copied it. So I figure she just knows.
The WoW, for those who don't know, is the AI warden who kind of manages everything and is spreading... Not maliciously, but kind of like a cancer that just doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah. Whenever you meet Catherine, she tells you of the ARC project, which is this thing it's a project to preserve human life.
Life.
Okay.
Well, that's the impetus behind the project, right?
Yeah.
I think it's more of like our legacy.
The way that they talk about it, it's specifically, they keep saying we were going to save humanity.
Yeah.
And that the intention is for people to go on living in this.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Now it's up to interpretation if that's how you view what's actually going on there. But that was the drive behind it.
Yeah. So after you meet Catherine, she tells you that, hey, you need to get like this new suit, right? Because you need to go deep into the ocean,
into the abyss,
to get the Ark. And during that time, you have to get. Well, at first you're like, oh, I can take a submarine, or I can do this, and it all goes, it all fails, and it turns out like, no, you just need to take this elevator and wear this suit, and just kind of hope for the best. But you need a suit, and that is a problem because you can't just like, get out of your body and get this, like, you have to get the suit, and the only way to do it is to basically transfer yourself.
Well, transfer in.
Yeah.
Big air quotes.
They say transfer all this time, and it's just like, yeah, I'm going to just move into this new body.
Well, stupid Simon, like, so many times just doesn't get it. And I got just as mad as Catherine did at the end of the game. Anyway.
Oh, for sure. But that first time, my jaw just dropped. I'll let you describe the scene, but
please interrupt me, of course, if I'm not describing it. But you have to, and what you eventually have to do is you find some lockers where a suit is, but you need to like be in that suit. So you need to like acquire that body that has that suit. Is that correct?
Right? So there's a body already inside of it, and you have to go get some structure gel and a battery and I guess a cortex chip in order to transfer in.
And so you're like, oh, you got it all, you're ready to go, and you just need to transfer yourself into that other body. So you sit down and get your brain scanned, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm in the new body, everything's fine. But it's not fine, because you're actually, the old you is still in that chair. And
you can hear him in the other room going, why didn't it work?
Yes.
I'm still here in my...
and you didn't have a decision.
Well, Catherine quickly puts him to sleep and says, I'll sleep for a few days.
Yeah.
And then that solves the problem.
Yeah, and then you have a decision of whether or not to euthanize that previous body or not.
Did you guys do it?
Hell yeah.
Did.
Oh, yeah.
I thinking about the idea of waking up after a few days and realizing I'm all alone and there's another me walking around out there was just awful. I would rather just if it's not actually a transfer and it's just a copy, I just want to die. I don't want to experience anything after that. The existential dread that comes after that. I just want to assume it's either me or that I died.
Well, and this is the second time that we've talked about this because I referenced this in Axiom Verge, but it's just like the movie, I'm sorry, not The Illusionist, the other one, The Prestige, where, copies, they just kill the copies.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, I spoiled the entire movie for you then. I'm so sorry.
Really?
Awesome.
Oh, great. We got the spoilers tag on.
I should have known. There's actually an episode of Star Trek where something like this happens because, like, the transporters in Star Trek disintegrate you at one end and recreate you on the other end. And so you just kind of have to accept that it's a new you coming out every time or hope that, your mind is somewhere in there. But there's an episode where there's a transporter accident and somebody's being transported up to the ship. There's a bunch of interference and something happens. There's a bunch of fail-safes and transporters now to where if you don't get recreated on the other end, you're supposed to be recreated on the first end. And so there ends up being a copy that gets left behind for years until he's discovered by another crew. And so now there's two of this guy and they've gone in separate ways. They're leading two separate lives and trying to figure out what that means for them. It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in this new body. You go down, you retrieve the Ark. On the way to the Ark, and I know I'm skipping like a bunch of like little stuff, but you end up destroying the core of the WOW or WAU or Warden unit.
You have the option not to.
You do?
Yeah, you could just walk away.
I didn't know that.
I think the first time you have to put your hand in, but then
Yeah,
you
I
can
did that.
choose to do it a second time to finish
No,
poisoning
you don't
it.
have to put your hand in either time.
Oh.
Oh.
You
It
just walk
didn't
away.
feel optional.
Oh, well, you can.
I stuck my hand in. I was like, hell yeah, I've been sticking my hand in these things the whole game. like, why stop now? Because that's how you heal, is you stick your hand in these like little, I don't know, growth.
I'll talk about it later, but I didn't understand the point of the healing pods.
It was to heal, because otherwise your vision gets all wibbly.
Yeah,
I didn't understand what caused your vision to get wibbly.
Oh, well,
Like if you run into monsters and they kind of smack you, or if you fall from too
If they
high
touched
height.
me, I died.
Well, you're not playing
Well,
the game right then.
yeah, you get 2 tries, but sometimes. Well, we can talk about that later.
Every time a monster touched me, I died.
What? No.
I'm shook.
There's some monsters that kill you in one hit, but most of them kind of smack you around a little bit.
Yeah, they do. And then you'll like wake up or you'll be fine, and then it turns out the monster's like still right in front of you, so he just like whacks you again.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's really fun. So you're going through and you get to the end of, and we can go back to talk about some other stuff, but I want to like wrap this up. So you get the arc. I do want to talk about that you actually do find a human, like an actual person in their own body, human eventually.
Well, you have to clarify that we'd been running into, quote, humans the whole game, and they'd just been, like, the WoW just, like, connected them to power sources with the weird, like, electronic, biologic cords that you see everywhere. So they were, like, just barely alive, but still alive.
But like all the
Oh.
monsters in the game have been humans who, I guess, got like
Corrupted.
different things happen to different ones. So like one guy was just drinking structure
Ugh.
gel all the time.
Oh my
And-
gosh. Yeah.
Structure gel basically will make something like it can reanimate. They used it to test on like mice. It reanimated the mice, and then they like went and just killed whatever living mice were next to them. So just kind of it makes you like an automaton. Basically, you don't really think. You just kind of attack whatever's around you.
Yeah. So you eventually get the arc and you put it in a bullet, and you're gonna send it through the cannon that sticks out of the water when it shoots. And so and of course you're all excited with Catherine that you're gonna copy your brain.
Well, Catherine keeps telling you it's a transfer. Yeah, we'll transfer. Well, he says, we're going to transfer me, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah.
Even though the first time she said transfer, he confirmed it was a copy.
He is so
Yeah.
stupid. Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah. So you scan your brains and it's like barely, and also Catherine does hers first.
Yeah.
Like a selfish jerk.
Oh my god.
How selfish.
And there's like 2 seconds left,
Like
and your transfer's only halfway.
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Like she couldn't have done this without you, but she's like, I'm going first.
Okay,
Screw
well,
you.
in her defense, the arc is her thing.
I don't care. I was not happy about it. I hated Catherine after that. So you copy yourself over, and then the thing shoots off, and you're like, it didn't work. And he's freaking out again. And it turns out it's because like before, which he should have known, but he's dumb, that it copies. It's not a cut and paste. It's a copy paste situation. And so the original copy still exists. And
And he
now-
likens it to a coin flip. Which one is you?
Yeah.
So the previous time you won the coin flip, and this time you lost the coin flip.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But are we getting to the post-credit scene? Is that
Yeah.
where you're? Okay. Then the credits show up, and also I was playing this on Xbox, which I'll get into, and I got all the achievements, and the last achievement does not go off until after the credits roll.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, oh no, something happened. I was like, I should have got it. Yeah. So I was all freaking out, and then I Googled, and someone was like, don't freak out, watch the credits.
well, the timing of that's kind of amazing, because if you have that message pop up right when you're loading up that scene, that kind of gives that a different context.
Yeah. So the credits roll, and then there's a post-credit scene, which shows that you are on the Ark. And Catherine's there, and I don't know, quote unquote human form.
Yeah,
with you.
Everything's beautiful there, and
Yeah, and it's great. And then that zooms out, and it's just like a satellite base. So, and that is the end of the game. And then you're like, what is consciousness? What is free will? There, of course, was some stuff that I didn't talk about, which is, all the monsters that are trying to get you during this time, which we can talk about a bit in our review. But is there anything specific you guys want to talk about with the monsters that may be spoilery? I say monsters, but the things that want to kill you.
Yeah, so there was one that pretty early on that they're just like, oh, make sure you don't look at it. It's just like,
yeah.
So I have to avoid it, but I can't look at it. Like, that's really annoying.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it, like, your screen just like freaks out. So you're having to walk around like backwards and doing all sorts of weird stuff. That was a weird monster.
I don't remember which one that was.
That was
you couldn't look at. Was it Acres?
I did not pay attention to the story enough to realize that they had names.
Oh my god. There's Proxies, Acres, Jin Yoshida.
This is the one with the lights. Like when you look at it, it has like a bunch of lights on its face.
Oh shoot. What was that? Was that a proxy? I can't remember.
It's in the beginning.
Everyone called it like Disco Ball Head or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I had played it on safe mode. I hate scary games. And so I Googled ahead of time, and this is how I got through BioShock Infinite as well. I Googled all the monsters ahead of time, looked up in like step-by-step walkthroughs when you encounter them, watched YouTube videos to see what their behavior would be, and then like I was ready. And towards the end of the game, you like meet unexpectedly this monster who's just like a reanimated human in a suit for no reason. Like there's no like, I don't know, it's Jin Yoshida in Omicron. And he is so weird, and he has like tentacles coming out of his face.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you guys saw that creepy Watson video where in Sherlock Trials and Tribulations, Watson just like, you don't see him moving. He just teleports behind you all the time. And Jin Yoshida does that to you. And he like makes your screen go wibbly. Yeah. And he like rattles in a weird way and makes weird noises. I couldn't deal with that. I like probably spent like a day building up to that. And I hated that boss. And I was like Googling, like, is there any way I can hack this game to delete this guy from the game? I can't. So anyway, I hated that boss, but all the other ones were okay.
I thought I didn't like horror games. My God. I would not have gone that far. I would have just been like, well, this is something I have to deal with. I will say this, I was really scared at the beginning, but once I got attacked by the monster, I was just like, oh, that's all it does? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of them were pretty slow
they're jump scares.
Not very good at tracking you.
I wasn't getting any jump scares. And I also think I got lucky in that I was able to avoid them in the beginning.
A lot of them were very avoidable. Like, remembering what you guys were saying about health, I guess the ones that take like 2 hits to kill you, I must have just avoided those well enough.
Yeah.
Because like I played it pretty safe, and they're pretty generous with letting you like lean to see where they're at.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't like get yourself trapped and run around a lot when there's something nearby, then generally you're pretty good.
Yeah. Is there anything spoilery that you guys want to talk about before I turn off this tag?
I have a couple of things.
All right.
Still going back to the monsters, I want to talk about the worst monster, which was me when I had to kill my little robot buddy to take his chip.
Wait! You killed your robot buddy?
They were like, you have to get a chip from something, just find a robot around. I know there were, and I couldn't find the other guy. I could not find him.
Try?
I looked very far, and something happened, and he was just gone. I could not find him. You should have
restarted the game.
Yeah, dude.
I thought I was just supposed to kill my robot buddy, and then I looked up afterwards, and I was like, I'm a monster. I feel awful.
Yeah, you are the biggest monster. Congratulations.
Yeah, you have to chase him down and hit him several times.
Yeah.
And it's super sad. Like, he gets really scared and
he
freaks out
so much.
I know. I felt awful. It was gut-wrenching. I was so that was traumatizing. There's also at multiple computers there's like surveys that you can do.
Oh yeah.
That kind of gauge your response on like, how do you feel about do you feel like this is actually life after death? Like, how do you feel about sending the Ark into space, things like that. How do you feel right now? And they gauge you at very specific times, like, hey, I'm just on the ship, like I'm kind of right when you're getting the sense that like maybe I'm not really in my own body. Like they give you that survey. And they do it. I did it the first time and maybe the second time, and they do it one more time when you get to the Ark in that post-credit scene. There's like a terminal where you can take the survey.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm not doing this survey. I just left it. I was just like, I cannot do this survey right now.
It's like every company that sends you a survey, like, please complete our survey. Thank you for making this purchase. Like, oh my gosh, like, no. The first time I was like, I'll fill it out. The second time I did halfway, and then I was playing it with my girlfriend. She was like, fill out the survey. I'm like, hell no, I'm not filling out that survey.
No, it doesn't matter now. I'm here. It doesn't matter how I feel.
I wonder if something happens if you do that.
No, I did all the surveys. No. There's no benefit.
It's just for informational purposes.
One of them gives
you
one of them out of like the 5 you can do tells you like, oh, your peers responded.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anything else spoilery, Mox, Austin?
I was going to talk about just like the idea of the game, which is so I feel like a common theme in humanity is to be afraid of your death. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it just wasn't, I'm just someone who's not scared of death. It's like, whatever. So it kind of cheapened the game a little bit because I felt like we're supposed to be like fighting for humanity, you know, like what you guys were saying when we encounter the last human being on Earth and you're like, do you save her? Do you make her live out her existence? Because she's asking you to kill her. And then, you know, so it's like, is that a big deal or not? And it just felt like not a big deal at all. Also, like sending the Ark to space, which just contains brain scans, like good brain scans that could be ostensibly turned into robots that could represent humanity to space. Mm-hmm. But I felt like the point of that was just like to get something that's human off of Earth, which is where the only place that we've been. I don't know. So I guess it didn't feel as profound at the end as it did like throughout the game when they were having like these existential discussions. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Well, so the scans aren't just sitting in space, right? They're actually interacting with each other in a virtual environment, kind of like there's an episode of Black Mirror that's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's several.
Kind of like Second Life, right?
What'd you say?
I said it's kind of like Second Life, right? Essentially.
Oh God. I don't think you should be referring to Second Life right now.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's not like Second Life.
I can't think of any media that's like it.
So, like, a lot of people, I guess, who understood the copy process when they went in for their scan had, like, prepped a suicide for themselves.
Yes, they did talk about that.
If you go read the logs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the idea behind it seemed to be like, this is the continuation of life rather than we're sending out our legacy to outlive us or something like that. Because, like, they build it to where it can work for thousands of years off of solar power. I think they had even set it up to where they can like generate new people within that.
Oh,
like
I missed that.
I forget where I was reading. It might have been in one of the surveys where it was asking how you feel about artificial people joining in, or maybe it was like one of the scientists talking. But that there was a mention of that. So my sense was that whether it is this or not, it was intended to be a continuation of life, or maybe even like an afterlife for the people who they were able to get scanned.
I guess that gives it more meaning than what I ascribed to it.
Yeah, it's not like I feel like it's not like a completely new idea. Like this whole like copying over your consciousness, and like how would that work? Like I feel like people talk about that. Like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you could like find a way to extract like who you are and put that in a robot and live for, you know?
There's a Stellaris like there's like the events that just happen on the side of the, you know, of the main story, and like one of them is you encounter a satellite containing brain scans of a long dead like species, and one of the options is keep it, see if we have the, you know, if we develop technology later to restore them, and the other one is like, no, break it down for parts. And if you keep it and then you develop a technology that lets you basically like synthetic people, turn brains into computers. Then an option pops up and it was like, hey, do you remember 200 years ago when you collected those brain scans? Do you want to turn them into a people? And you turn them into robots, and they're like really thankful. And it gives you like, it auto-populates a colony for you, which it normally takes like a bit of effort to do. So it's like, it reminded me of this game, and I was like, I wonder if that's related at all. So someday those scans could be robots in someone's civilization in Solaris.
Could be. Maybe that's an Easter egg. Okay, so let's move forward. I feel like this game could be talked about at length, especially that part of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
have a lot more that I would.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
turn
off the spoilers tag, and then let's talk about how we played it. So I'm gonna turn that off now. Okay, so let's start with Mox.
I played it in the Epic Game Store thing, which doesn't have any sort of achievements as far as I can tell. And I played it on safe mode. And when I first watched this game, I was like, I can't deal with this, blah, blah, blah. And at that time, there was a mod, like an unofficial one I think it was called Wuss mode, which basically just made all the monsters, like, it took away their like aggressive AI and just made them kind of like, they just plotted around and they don't mess with you. Which a lot of people were using, and a lot of people, like a lot of critics were like, hey, this is a cool mod. And then like a year later, Frictional Games released safe mode as part of their game, which, obsoleted Wuss mode. So I was like, there's no way I'm playing this game in non-Wuss mode. So I played it. It was still so scary. I don't know how anyone plays scary games like this. There's like jump scares, like you're reading something and then like lights flicker out, or you're just walking around, looking at computers and stuff, and then like something screams, or like you hear things rocking around in the vents. And it's just so scary, you guys. I don't know how anybody plays these games like in reality, but I really like the story. That's the only reason I sat through this horrifying game, because the story is so good. But even in safe mode, the monsters will still like they'll find you and kind of approach you, or some of them will like teleport right next to you and then teleport away as soon as you notice them. Or like the one at the end, Jin Yoshida, he'll like waddle up to you, and then if you take a step towards him, he'll like waddle a step back, and he just follows you around like creepy Watson, making his weird like jerking noises and screams. And I just like, I needed like a safer mode, because it was still just so scary. But otherwise I really liked it, and it played well. The loading times were really long for a game on my like really nice NVMe, but whatever, it's fine.
Are you talking about like the airlock stuff?
Yeah, I really liked the loading times in that game that was in France that we played.
Oh, Plague Tale?
Yes, they were really smooth. I never noticed loading times. Whereas here is like anytime you're entering an airlock, my game would freeze, and then I'd be like, oh, there's a loading time,
Yeah, and it would also like change the textures of the area as well. So it was very clear when you were entering a loading zone. Yeah. Like it would take a long time to do the airlock, and then you would have like that technical freeze, and everything would kind of pop back in.
I ran into that as well.
And like that, amateurs.
What would you put this on your 10-point scale?
It's so hard, because the story is like 10 out of 10, but God, do I hate playing it. It took me the full 2 weeks, because I'd have to play it, psych myself up. It took me 2 days to play the last, chapter, because of that stupid boss thing that creeped around. I don't know, like a 7 out of 10, I guess.
Yeah. Austin, how about you?
So, yeah, I agree with that critic who said it gets off to a slow start, because I played this 4 years ago in when it was in the Humble Monthly Bundle, and I didn't play all the way through it, but I played with like maybe the first hour or two, and it just kind of hit a point where I was like, I really don't like the gameplay of this. Like, the story is pretty interesting, but it's not that interesting. I didn't really hit the point where the story hooks you in. Right. And the gameplay just really wasn't doing anything for me. But having played through it now, the game's not that bad, and the story is really good. And the story really pissed me off when I finished it at first. Like, I was just like I knew it was good, but also it was just like I had a lot of feelings, and that's a mark of a good story. Yeah, both.
Oh, okay.
Both. The post credit kind of made me feel worse.
What?
Just, like, worse is like you weren't satisfied, or like just like negative feelings.
I just had a lot to process. The longer that the more time that I spend since the game, the more I like it looking back on it. But like while I was playing it, I was really cheesed about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, it's becoming more positive in memory. Especially now that like I know if I ever replayed it again, I would probably get more out of it.
Yeah.
At knowing what's coming. But man, some of the ideas were just like, what? And I had to really contend with like, how do I feel about this? But yeah, in terms of the gameplay, I don't like that style of game where it's like drag stuff with your mouse. Like there was a section towards the end of the game where every door, like there's not even danger around you, but every door you have to like drag up 3 times. I guess I should say I played on PC through Steam using mouse and keyboard.
I played on normal mode. I have like a mouse whatever pad thing, and I literally had to move my mouse up it like 3 times in that one specific thing you're talking about.
And it's every freaking door, right?
It was too many doors.
It was too many doors.
And what did they add to the game? Why did I need to lift these doors?
Just absolutely nothing like that. Ugh. Anyways,
So
the monster encounters, the monster encounters were either too easy or just kind of like, what the heck was I supposed to do there? I don't know how I could have avoided failure. Like there were lots of places where you could hide, but then the monsters would just be like, I'm gonna slowly walk around right outside, and then they would open the door and it would be like, okay, I can't go anywhere. What was I supposed to do to avoid this situation other than just choose a different hiding space?
You're supposed to be able to like throw things to distract them. That never worked for me. No matter what I threw, where I threw it, didn't matter. They didn't care.
Things don't fly very far, especially when you're underwater.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about like when you're indoors, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of underwater, I had lots of times where I was like, where the hell am I supposed to go? Which eventually I would figure out, but that was more in the first half than the second half.
Well, the game punishes you if you don't know where you're going underwater. There's like a monster that is like, excuse me, you're trying to leave the loading zone. Like you need to go over here.
Yeah.
Oh, I never encountered that. That's
it
interesting.
like picks you up and it's like, stop it.
Yeah.
Get back into the invisible glass.
I think the most interesting gameplay section for me, there was an area where you could like control locked doors with a computer, and there was a monster kind of roaming around. And so I could like make myself safe by locking that door that I was in. But I had to do that section twice because like as I was completing the final door of it, there's like a little bit of you have to move some things around to get something working, and it wasn't clear. The guy was just chasing me down, and he moved so slow, but I had to redo the section because I was not understanding the puzzle. The only real like technical problem I had, like from a design standpoint, was there was a room that I got into where I couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do, and when I looked online, well after the fact, a bunch of people had a problem in that room. It was when you were trying to get that like little sub thing set up so that you could go down into the abyss. And there's a door like up on the wall and it's locked. And there's a set of movable stairs that you can move around. And so like I moved the stairs, tried to get up there, it was locked. I was like, maybe I can, I looked all over the room. So I was like, let me try moving these stairs out of the room because the door's tall enough that I can move them. So I moved them out of the room, the stairs fell over, and I was like, I guess I'm not supposed to use those stairs.
At all, so
or
I go
right
back
then? Right then.
Okay.
So I go back, I ended up figuring out the puzzle finally, and when you solve the puzzle, it locks the door, and it kind of reloads the area. But the stairs, if you took them out of the room, they're not there. So I was in that room with no stairs, and it was just like, the next thing you have to do is go up into that wall, which is now unlocked. And it was like, oh, well, the stairs are gone. There's no way to get out of the room. And that's when I looked up like, hey, what am I supposed to do next? And they go, yeah, you are screwed. You need to load a different save. So luckily it keeps a few saves behind, but like I would not have known that if I hadn't looked that up.
That's pretty cool.
That would have been really frustrating.
Like, just make those stairs not movable before that scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you could have done. And they can fall over, and you can't pick them back up.
Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah.
Which is... in terms of my 10-point scale, I would say the man, when I first was thinking about the story, I was like, it was good, but I didn't love it. And the more I think about it, like, I've been liking it more and more. So I'd probably give the story like a 9 or so. But the gameplay, I would probably give a 5. Like, it didn't do anything just overtly wrong, but it was not fun.
Yeah.
And for a while, I was thinking, like, man, this story would have been better as, like, a Telltale game or as a movie. But at the same time, like, really, this story needed to be told as a first-person game. Because of the nature of the story and, like, how you encounter everything and the ideas.
Yeah.
It should be played first-person, like this was a good format for the story.
I agree.
It's just that the game itself was not very fun to play.
I think it's a lot more fun in safe mode, but
I mean, even when I wasn't around the monsters, like, I still was not having a fun time. It was a lot of where the hell am I supposed? I played that opening section 3 times in the past. I still can never remember where that damn tracer fluid is. It drives me insane.
Well, that first part where you have to, like, throw a chair through that, like, cracked glass, I probably spent like 10 minutes in that room. So embarrassing.
Yeah.
Oh.
So not a fun game, but I understand why it was told in the format that it was.
Yeah.
So I would, if I were averaging the 2, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8. If you're out there playing, you've given up on the first chunk, then I would definitely keep trying to play. I noticed on the Steam achievements that I think like less than 70% of people made it to the first achievement, which is less than an hour into the game. And I think a little less than 30% of people actually finished the game.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
There's a big drop off up until you get to about halfway through, and then it's a much slower drop off after that in terms of people who stopped playing. So
nice. So I played it on Xbox One. I got all the achievements. I played it in about, I think, 2 or 3 sittings. I don't know how long it took me, but it wasn't that long. I did have 3 crashes on Xbox. One of them was super frustrating because the checkpoint was like really far back, and I'm like, great, I get to do this puzzle again that I know how to do. I have to wait out this monster, and that'll be fun. And it wasn't that fun to do again. It wasn't that scary for me. At first, I was really scared, but then after I encountered one monster, I was like, okay,
yeah,
this is what it is. Like, I will say though that I am very scared of the depths of the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, and so there's this one part where you go really deep in the ocean, and that part was extremely scary for me. Just being
just walk around.
Not the monsters, not nothing. Just being deep in the ocean. I do not like that idea of.
What is the fear?
That's very interesting.
Drowning?
I guess. I don't know. I just don't like deep oceans. All right. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't mind swimming in the ocean. I just don't want to go deep in the ocean, where it's dark and there's all kinds of weird creatures and the scenery was really nice, and I thought it worked really well for the game. I got like Lost vibes from it, like the TV show Lost.
Yeah.
I would say I would definitely recommend everyone play this game. If you're like, oh, this story might be interesting, or oh, this game might be interesting, I would highly recommend you play it. I would not recommend playing on Xbox if you have a choice, just because there were so many crashes. And I was playing on the One X, but there was like so many crashes. And
what is a console crashing? I can't say I've ever had a game crash on a console.
It just closes the game and goes to dashboard.
You're kidding. I can't.
It's become more common this generation.
Oh my goodness!
Unfortunately,
I'm incredulous. Sorry.
No, it's really frustrating. I mean, it happens like some PlayStation games do this exact same thing.
Yeah.
Does it tell you like you just reached a checkpoint? Because when I saved and quit, which I did a lot of times in this game, it didn't tell me like, oh, save. If you quit now, you'll lose your progress. It made it seem like no matter where I was, I could save.
There's a little brain icon that would show up in the bottom right corner of the screen when it would auto save.
Yeah. Huh. But yeah, the game just closes and you're just like screwed. Like whatever your most recent checkpoint was, like that's it.
That sucks.
And you have to like wait through the loading times again. Anyway, that part for me was really frustrating. I know that it was ported by another company, I believe, that helped with the port. So
I see.
I wouldn't put it all on frictional games, but yeah. Besides that, there were some things that like bothered me, like, oh, now you need to die, like forced death. I hate when games do that. I hate it.
Where was there a forced death? Oh,
there was some forced where you're like, where something, no matter how hard you try, like something bad's gonna happen to you.
Oh, I see.
To happen. Or like, I don't like that. I also don't like, oh, this game's supposed to be stealthy. JK, you need to run really fast at this part that you've never done before in this game. It'll be totally cool because it's not what you're expecting. And it was not fun because I'm like, oh, I need to run, like actually like keep running. I can't just like run and go hide really quick. Like I have to keep running through. Like that was not cool. But
and know where you're going,
yes.
and know the puzzle piece too.
Yeah. That was not. I mean, the whole. I will say like the locations, they're very different. Like each location, but like whenever you're in a specific location, like it all kind of looks the same because it's like a facility and there's not much difference. But overall, like I liked it. I thought it was okay, like 6 out of 10. But the story is really good, and it has to be told in this way. I agree with you, Austin. I think it makes sense because you are making choices that you have to really think about, which I think it would not make sense to watch like in a movie form.
Well, also just like with the way the ideas that are explored.
Yes.
You have to be immersed in being this character in order to really feel the impact of those ideas.
Yeah.
Speaking of choices, there really aren't any important choices that you make, but there are a lot of choices. What do you guys think of the choices not really having an impact on the ending per se, but still, like you said, being very compelling? What do you guys think of that?
It didn't bother me really. Like I like that there were some choices, but I didn't expect them to be significant, and I wasn't upset when they weren't. Like I was just like, oh, this is a nice thing to think about.
I wish that they had a little bit more impact, like maybe not on the ending, but just like maybe on your relationship with Catherine, or just like something that you might see differently at a different site later on. I don't know. I think that would have been cool to explore. Just like, hey, well, if you had done this instead, then this kind of cool little thing would have happened. But you did the other thing.
Yeah.
I agree. I wish there was some impact, but I liked that I didn't have to like replay the game for a different ending because I'm not playing this game.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep
going.
Is there anything? No, I'm done. Is there anything else you guys would like to give on your take on Soma, Mox?
I liked it. I think the like you guys have been saying, like the most important part is the story, and it needed to be told this way, and like all the like attendant things that come with having a video game that's with a compelling story rather than like watching a movie or something. Although they did make like short films, I think they're called transmissions that I don't remember what they're. I think it's like how all of this came to be. So after the comet, but before like the events of Soma. So I won't watch them because it's still too scary, but I appreciate that they made them.
Austin, any last words from you?
I forgot to mention the voice acting. I really liked the voice acting in this.
Really?
Catherine, I did. Just the way Catherine was so cavalier about really like kind of traumatic things. Simon actually kind of reminded me a little bit of you, Pseudo. At multiple points, I was just like, man, this guy just keeps... And then, something big would happen and be like, okay, well, never mind. But just in his general demeanor. And it was especially interesting with Catherine, just how casual she was about so much stuff. And then you kind of start to get into her backstory of or like reading on text logs and stuff like that, and she'll kind of react with you of just like, wait, are you serious? And having her suddenly freak out when she's been so calm and collected for most of the time, or when you blow up on her and she just kind of is just like, okay, I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah.
I think having that that back and forth, I think, worked pretty well throughout the game for me.
Awesome. So that was Soma, another another game in the books. So let's move on to what the next 3 games nominated were. They were nominated by Austin, and they were Luigi's Mansion, I'm Scared, and Dead Space. And it looks like, in a last-minute effort and vote, that Dead Space will be the next game that we play. Have you guys played Dead Space before? Mox, have you played it?
No. Why would I ever play this game? I have been Googling Dead Space less scary on Google since I saw the vote. And all of the comments on Reddit are like, don't play this game. Uninstall. Why are you playing a scary game if you don't want it to be scary? And the answer is, I am being made to.
Austin, have you played it?
I have.
All the way through?
Okay. I'll just tell you, there are not very many horror games that I've finished, and this was one that was not super hard to get through.
Okay.
So it's got a scary theme, it's got scary monsters, but at its core, it's an action game.
Yeah.
And
you have a weapon.
with a horror coat of paint on.
Yeah.
You've got good weapons, you've got good ammo, and you've got a good upgradable arsenal. And I wouldn't be too scared.
Okay. That's good to know.
That's a tall order not to be scared of Dead Space.
I've never played it. I'm excited to check it out. But yeah, I think for me personally, I think having a way to attack, like defend yourself versus having to hide is like 2 different, like scary, like ways of being scared.
Where's the safe mode?
Dead Space safe mode.
There is an easy mode.
Oh, there you go.
Less scary, or is it just like, oh, you can kill everything in one shot?
You're more powerful. You get more ammo drops. I think things take less shots to kill.
There you go.
Even on normal, you have to manage your inventory a little bit, but they're pretty generous with what they give you.
Okay.
And in easy mode, I assume that's got to be to the nth degree.
Nice.
This title of this article is The Incomprehensible Horror of Dead Space.
That's just people trying to be like, oh, can you believe how scary?
I remember at the time it was a big deal when it came out.
Yeah.
But then EA killed it, right? So thank you everyone for joining. Our next game is going to be Dead Space, like we said. The stream will be on October 25th at 2:00 Eastern. Sometime, some other place. Austin, thank you so much for joining, as always.
Yeah, of course.
And Mox, thank you for participating, even though you were scared.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Tyler, and this was Video Game Club Episode 8, and we're out.